Before I start on this intrepid journey of Sinew backing knowledge, I need to recognize my cousin David, who sent me a 10 shilling Australian note from 1944. And on the back was signed PFC Martin Riggs. Fought in the Pacific Theater with, this is ironic considering the number of horse bows I made, he was with the 7th Cavalry. Need I say more? The people that fought in the Philippines, the 7th Cav was connected with the 1st Cav. They were fighting in the Pacific Theater at the same time. Partook in a really famous battle, the Battle of Luzon, along with Leyte and another one that escapes me at the moment. But the Battle of Luzon was one of these hard-won victories over the Japanese. And don't connect modern Japanese with World War II era. It was a whole different mindset. Where the casualties on the American side, the Allied side, because they're probably Australian and Canadian troops and other nationalities represented. The Allied casualties were about 8,000. The Japanese, on the other hand, was over 200,000. So that was extremely lopsided, and mostly due to starvation, because the Japanese did not give up. They would rather die than surrender. But that said, on to some things. Bow number 1, Hughes bow. And I did some cleanup work on the tips. Now, I don't need to wrap them. I don't need to wrap these recurve tips. But the thing is that Hugh, I believe Hugh, I'll have to check my records, wanted to have a coating of Titebond 3 over them. So where it ends, nice clean on both sides. And this looks deceptive. It's a character bow. Keep in mind, that split does not run, thump, deep. So it's of no consequence. It's just pretty. If I was to wrap those tips, which I probably won't, I wouldn't do it until the bow is tillered, because I'm going to be shaping the belly almost rounded, kind of flattish rounded, right? And there's nothing worse than I've done wrapped my tips. They look beautiful, right? And then I've shaped the rest of my limbs, and suddenly it goes from rounded to more or less rectangular in cross section. So I'm not going to touch the tips until it's tillered and the belly is shaped, and I want the tips to reflect the shape of the belly. But I had 2 minor separations in my sinew backing. And so I went back, and I refer to this as a bow tie, right? Very carefully prepared the back so it would stick to new sinew, because it was somewhat dry, right? A lot of water. Just keep going over it until it reinvigorates that gluey layer on the back. And then I just cut. These are very short. These are half-length tendons. I didn't want to affect, too much, but I just wanted to fill that. So I refer to this a bow tie because it's kind of a bow tie, right? Flatten out the ends. The separation is right here. And I made it smaller than flat so I could jam it into the separation, and then I'll wrap it in a bit. And this one was kind of silly. This was an even smaller separation. Where is it? Well, I can see it in the camera. Where I jammed it in there. And the reason I didn't have to do that one, it's under the handle. And I'm going to take, on this bow, I can set this down. It's a beautiful bow. This is gasket material. This is cork, right? And I'm going to build up some layers. And like that one bow, that short board bow I had where the handle was kind of thickened, I'm going to do the same thing with this one, where I'm going to build up kind of a bigger handle layer to make it more comfortable. It's going to have a buckskin wrap, which will be dyed and smoked. And it's also going to have a floppy rest, because Hugh wanted to have an arrow rest in it, right? And I was like, I've never made one. And Hugh's a good guy. He's like, okay, what are my alternatives? And I said, I can put a floppy rest into the leather wrap, right? Which it's basically just like a little flap of leather that keeps the arrow from skidding over your hand. And it also gives you a reference point of where the arrow pass is. And so this is exciting. It's going to have Tight Bond 3 over it, there's going to be, that separation is going to be cured. Actually, if you were to buzz over the surface of this, you can see the white streaks, which is kind of characteristic of sinew backing, because when it shrinks, it stresses the individual fibers, and it's almost like you're pounding and separating them again. It's similar to that. But I can cure that by just, a little water bath. Just keep going over it, fussing with it. Bows are a lot of fussing. And then I have to do the tips and shape the belly and tiller it. And, the devil is in the details. But so far, oh my gosh, I'm loving this bow. I love that knot. I was able to press all the major roller coasters out of it, which will give it a pretty curve when it's drawn. Okay, now this is Will's second bow, and you can see what I meant by bent tabs. And I've worked with them a little bit. Preparing them, I have to sand, because the sinew that goes over the top and then back down to secure the tips there goes a little too far. I'm going to have deer rawhide wraps over these, which will cushion it. These are very angular, but it's going to round it off. I don't need to fuss too much with sanding to round things. The rawhide will do that. Now, how you get the rawhide to press into the string grooves? Pretty simple. You glue your rawhide on, soaking it, of course, to make it loose. And then you wrap it with something, whatever, rubber bands, doesn't matter. And then you string it. And I don't brace the bow because the sinew's not ready yet. But I can string it, like I'm tillering it, right? And then just block it up with a piece of wood to put pressure on the string and jam the rawhide into the string grooves. And it'll make a nice, it's really cool looking, a nice effect. And it also will protect the string, because strings can wear at the tip area, but that rawhide will cushion, round things, and protect it. So it'll keep the string alive longer. And it was more of a technique used on West Coast, like Hoopa or Modoc bows, such as those, Talawa, where they'd have their finely crafted ERC, Eastern Red Cedar, not Western, like that paddle bow, which I'm still shooting. That's a tremendous 30-something pound bow. But they would have those highly reflexed sinew back bows, bent tabs, more bent than this. I wanted it kind of a low, but, detectable. Yeah. So these are progressing nicely. I'm also not going to put that rawhide there because I'm pondering putting another layer of sinew on this. And this is why I've got these things on here, so I can handle it without getting hand oil, my greasy little paws all over the backing. So I'm not touching the backing with my hands. But yeah, it's a beautiful layer, already. So it doesn't really need it, but I'm pondering that. Okay, now you're sinew backing, right? I always like to throw some handy tips in here. I've got my bows on my jig. It's like an I-beam kind of thing, and I've got blocks that I can adjust the length because I do different size bows. I'm not a one-trick pony, right? So bow is sitting there, ready to size. Got it? Good. Take a heat gun or run the bow over your stove. Get that bow warm. Get that bow really warm before you put that first sizing layer on it, because that'll keep it from gelling. It'll help it absorb into the wood better. Don't put that first sizing layer on a cold bow. Make it warm. Make it warm. And then after that, you get the first sizing layer on, then you don't necessarily heat it, unless if you're a sinew backer, you have probably noticed that as you get your successive layers of sizing on there, they look gloppy, right? It might have gelled. You'll get little bobules and whatever. It doesn't look like a smooth, glistening back, always. What can you do? Hit that sizing with your heat gun. Run it over a stove. It'll melt it again, and then it'll self-level and look really nice and be even. Again, the devil's in the details. Preparation is key in sizing. And I'm telling you, I appreciate that everyone that does sinew backing knows everything and they are always right and everyone else is wrong. I'm referring to a specific video where the dude, he laid on a sinew bundle, right? And then he didn't overlap, he just butted it. And then put a second layer that then brickworked it. But I have never seen that, and I've especially never seen somebody that said, I know what I'm doing, I'm right, everyone else is wrong, in other aspects of sinew backing, that didn't overlap the successive bundles. I have to say, I think that's wrong. I have a great overlap when I do it. In fact, I have such a great overlap when I do mine, especially when I get long tendons. You know, sometimes you just get packages of really long white-tailed deer tendons, right? And so my overlap is so much, it's almost like putting on 2 layers at once. That's why when you look at my bows, along with wrapping tightly, you don't see a bunch of separations in them. It's just a nice, smooth layer. Yes, sirree, Bob. That's about it. So I talked about heating your bow before you put that first thing on. I've already covered, let's see, instead of in my baggy method, I've got the baggy weakened hide glue, but still amber. You can tell the strength of the hide glue, the grain weight, I guess it's called, by the color. It needs to be amber. In my baggie with all the prepared sinew is sitting in a Tupperware in hot water to keep it, ready to put on. I used to put 6 or 7 or 8 full tendons worth of sinew in that baggie and then pull them out and then put them on. No more. I just put, enough in, then I'll refill it, let them soak and do it. It makes management a little easier. And also, if you want to do a really pretty sinew job with a nice even edge, do the edge first. Do the edges first. Then do the tips, especially if it's one of these things where you want it to just end. And then the sinewing is so much easier once you get the edges. It's like, I want to draw a picture of Queen Elizabeth, right? So I get a coloring book of her and just fill in the lines. Works the same way. Yeah, now I'm done. Now, come on, go for a run again. The last time I went for a run, I did the 6K course. I want to do more. That's only 3.78 miles. I want to do 5 miles today. So maybe I'll do a course and then come back and do some bows. Maybe it's time to actually, where is it? I've got them all over the place. There it is. Take my elm log and turn it into 5 stavases. It's going to be so cool. So excited. Today will be a good day.